Hi, welcome to Write More Light. My name is Sarah, recording this web series with the Midwest Writing Center. Um, if you are unfamiliar with the if you're unfamiliar with the Write More Light web series, what you can expect today is this intro in which I will eventually get around to talking about today's topic and today's guest. Following that, we will have updates from the Midwest Writing Center and then a free write to take with you on your day. Today we have with us Janey Locander. Janey is a recent graduate from Augustana College who is currently focused on not wasting her 20s. Through adventures in advocacy and other creative projects that make her heart happy, she hopes to put out good energy and love to everyone she comes across. Thank you, Janey, for hanging out today. I'm really excited to get into what I'm calling writing in real life.
I'm excited to be here.
Yay. Um, For anyone wondering, Janie was an intern with the Young Emerging Writers internship at the Midwest Writing Center, which is how we met, and she has also been staff for the last couple of years. Um, so I wanted specifically to talk to you on this topic because you're somebody I see as really kind of like living the work, so to speak. So I wanted to see how writing fits into your life because, I'm in a weird position, and I think if you're coming to this web series and you're seeing this person who works for a literary nonprofit who goes to school for writing. My life is a little bit different than, say, the average writer. Um, so someone else should be able to talk on that a little bit better. And you have a very full life. So we'll start from the beginning. When did you start writing?
As early as I remember, honestly, there's my parents have old stories of mine that like before I could even write them down, I had them like dictate stories. And then as soon as I was able to write and like narrate my own adventures. So it's like there isn't a time that like I don't recall me not writing. It's always been a part of my life since day one.
That makes me happy. Sometimes people have this very like dramatic and this is the moment. But I like a forever story. Um, I guess you'll have to define this term, but have you always taken writing seriously then? It sounds like if you were demanding things of your parents, then story was pretty important. But when did you maybe start
I
taking it seriously?
mean I grew up like having a very active imagination. I would like dictate dramatic storylines for my stuffed animals, and that would like kind of we have a whole old family like home video recorder where I'd act stuff out. So it was never something that was like I don't know. I feel like it became more of a serious thing when I started having opportunities to be published. Like they would teach us like poetry in school and have like elementary school poetry collections that you could submit for, and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. And then I guess from there, it kind of just it's like some of my earliest memories. A group of friends I had in elementary school, we'd create our own characters and we'd like, you know, draw like my friends were artists, so they draw them out. It was never something that was like, oh, I can't do this. It was like something that just kind of came natural.
I love that. I think sometimes about I played with Barbies to an age that I was embarrassed to admit it. I'm not now. And I think back on it and I'm like, this is just story. Like this is just story, but you're shaming me because I have props. Um, so I'm
Mhm.
glad that you have something similar. I'm also glad that you had so many different mediums through which to do story. And I don't like my use of the word serious, because what does that mean? Why would it be less serious if it's whatever? Um, but it sounds to me like when I asked what you heard, and I think this is what I was asking was,
Mhm.
um, when you started to see it as more important than hobby. It became
And I
serious
think it
to you.
helped too. I think it helped too that I had so many teachers like throughout my school experience that were like former ELA teachers. Like my fifth grade teacher came from the middle school after teaching middle school English. So we did a lot of writing, and a lot of kids in my fifth grade class did not like that, but I loved it. because we did like she did special journal exercises with us and like taught us to be creative in that way. And like I latched onto it, but my classmates not so much.
It's funny. I definitely got in trouble, I want to say in like fourth grade, because we had to like, we were required to journal once a week or something. And I wrote a
Mhm.
story like ongoing throughout the year. And whenever my teacher eventually checked our journals, she was like, this isn't journaling. And I was like, but it's better though.
Mhm.
Um, so when you went to college, I know that you had like 1,000 majors, and I know that English was in there. Um,
Mhm.
but as I understand it, you focused really hard on women, gender, and sexuality studies.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah.
So then what did college look like for you? Keeping your keeping your passions in mind with your classes, your activities.
So going into college, I initially wanted to do a triple major, which included creative writing. Unfortunately, I had some issues with the registrar's office, so I couldn't make that happen. But I'm very happy that I was able to keep creative writing on as a minor. I figured since I was going into college and I had a lot, like, at this point in time, I've been working with the young emerging writers for a few years, and I'd done a lot of like publication work in high school. I kind of wanted to pivot and see what else I could do. Not that I wasn't like going to throw writing away. I just wanted to kind of explore, because like aside from WGSS, women, gender, sexuality studies, I also took an interest in psychology. And I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity to continue with clubs and organizations on campus involving writing, which I did end up working for the newspaper and being a part of her campus, which was a very rewarding experience. So like I was still able to keep those like writing opportunities happening. I was still working for YEW in the summers. So I decided to like take the opportunity to expand what I was learning within writing and see how I can connect that to other interests.
Can you
So
can you tell us what her campus is and what you did with her campus?
yeah, her campus is a like national online magazine for, well, it's for everybody, but they primarily focus on young college women. And I joined the chapter as a Augustana's chapter as a freshman because I met these two amazing ladies, Michelle and Shuby, who ran the chapter when I was a freshman. I really like I was wandering the activities fair, not sure where like what I was gonna do, and they just like called me over, complimented me on my hair clips. And that was the first club I joined on Augustana's campus, and it was really cool, especially since everything was like post-COVID. So there was like there was like over 100 people at the first meeting, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then from there, I was a part of the writing team. When her campus underwent some changes, I got promoted to exec board, and I got to lead the writing team for 3 years, which is pretty cool.
That is
And I've helped the group maintain, like we have tier systems within her campus. And we went from like bronze level to gold during my time, which was pretty cool. And I've helped people discover like where their interests lie writing wise, which is super cool.
that is really cool. Thank you for elaborating. I know
Hmm.
it's sometimes I yeah, sometimes you don't know what folks know that you're talking about. Um mm, mm, mm. So you said something that I found really cool. You said that you were looking at other areas of study to see to expand from the writing or what you can do with or beyond writing.
Hmm.
And I think that's a really, really cool idea because I think that a lot of folks feel like they have to either focus everything on writing or they don't get to be a writer, you know. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm heavy, heavy air quotes here. Um, and you were clearly of the mind that no matter what you were doing, writing was going to be there. Um, so what else can also be there? And it sounds like you found some answers. Do you want to talk about, well, that'll segue us very nicely into
Mhm.
I know you started two different pretty major projects in school, or maybe they happened to be while you were in school. Um, I don't know. I don't know which one I want to start with. Well, which came first? Which project came first?
I mean, they both kind of started around the same time for various different reasons. Rainbow Pages came first, and that was because of I was taking a queer theories course at Augustana, and that was like a it was a project that was based off of that class, and then it kind of grew from there. But like both of them were kind of like concept driven in
Can,
December of
can you tell me
23.
what Rainbow Pages is and what that project was that it grew from?
So for our queer theories final project, we were tasked with either creating like an art piece. Like what I love about the WGSS program at Augustana is that when it comes to projects, our professors give us an option. And for like most of the classes that I've had in that department, it's either do something creative based or write a paper. And I'm going to take the creative choice 90% of the time because research papers, that was a big thing, especially with psychology too, where I'm doing like, it's just not something I like. Like, I have such a respect for it and I've learned how to do it. It's just not my favorite thing. So I decided to do something creative. And a big push that my professor was trying to like encourage us to help out with was the Pride and Memory QC project, which is an archival based resource looking into like queer history of the Quad Cities, which is super cool. And we had them actually come in and speak to us. So I was like brainstorming my project and I realized that like the Quad Cities didn't have, I mean, like the Quad Cities community is full of like queer spaces and queer opportunities, but there wasn't anything that was just for queer writers. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I ran it by my professor and they were very much down to see what that would mean. And then over Thanksgiving break, I kind of like fleshed stuff out and I had my friend Ava help me out with website design because that's not something I'm super familiar with. And Rainbow Pages was born from there. And essentially, it started as like a space for those who were like either current college students in the Quad Cities or in that surrounding QC area to submit works with the emphasis that they were LGBTQ plus. And on top of that, we'd have open mics in the community for everyone to enjoy. And we did a big release in December, and that was super exciting. And then from there, we've hosted, I think, 6 or 7 open mics in that time, which has been really cool. And it's still a project that's very close to my heart, and I'm hoping that in the future I can re like reutilize it and kind of revamp it because it's gotten to be, like in comparison to my other project, which I'll get into, it became hard to manage both. And I have a lot of love for both projects, but I really had to just narrow it down, especially as someone who identifies as an ally. I don't ever want to be like, it's like it's a support for the community, but I don't want to speak for the community. So it's kind of like making sure that I invite people who are a part of that community to help me take, like, help me out. I don't want to speak for a community that I'm not a part of. So that's a big push of like why it's kind of on hiatus at the moment. But I still have a lot of love for it and I want it to grow and continue, hopefully.
Beautiful. Then let's talk about the other project.
So around the same time, maybe a couple months before, I got an email. I think you might have sent me that email or like forwarded it from Planned Parenthood. And they were talking about this really cool program from Advocates for Youth, which, if people don't know what that is, it's a nonprofit organization based off of Washington, D.C. They're super cool. I still do occasional work with them and programs with them, which is super neat. And they were doing this thing called the Condom Collective, which they were giving out free condoms and free EC, which is emergency contraception. And I signed up for that because I'm like, that's cool. And they were doing a big thing for Abortion Out Loud, Abortion Week of Action, which unfortunately I couldn't do much on my campus because it was short notice and I had difficulties doing that on campus as a junior. Yeah, it just didn't happen. But I did end up getting the condoms in the mail, a giant refrigerator-sized box sent to my house full of Julie contraceptives. There's 800 boxes that I managed to get rid of in like the span of like by the end of that school year, which was pretty cool. And then there was also an opportunity that came up for me to go to DC as a part of like their inaugural cohort for abortion access co-leads, which was super cool and kind of got me into the legal aspects of abortion access and healthcare, which was super informative. And all of the people within that cohort, some who have like met celebrities or like led rallies on their campus in like southern states where abortion is like, I really learned a lot from everyone in that group. And even now I'm still like I keep up to date and see what people are doing because these are all young people from the ages of like 18 to 25, so that's quite a range, and they're all doing such cool work. And I'm like, well, I have all these condoms. How am I gonna I know this is kind of like a long-winded story, but after getting those supplies, I kind of figured, how am I going to get rid of these? Like, I mean, because it was a little at the time awkward to like just hand out Plan B and stuff to friends because I was still very new to doing that. But it ended up being that through word of mouth and a really cruddy Google form, I started like giving stuff away. I like pack a little reusable tote that I would borrow, well, take from my office that weren't being used, and I'd fill it with the supplies, and then I'd meet people with it on campus. And it got to a point where I'm like, this needs a name, but it like, and it kind of got the Hey Janey and Co name, but it wasn't fully established until last October, actually, when I did my first tabling event. Because before I was tabling for Hey Janey, I was tabling for advocates and giving out supplies from advocates. And then I'm just like, well, this is kind of different from what advocates is doing. So after I tabled at, well, Hey Janey's first tabling event, it was a her campus event. Then I made an Instagram, slowly assembled a team, and then now we're like leading into this school year. I'm bringing a whole new cohort in, and I'm super excited for it. But yeah, it was a very winding journey compared to Rainbow Pages was just pretty simple. Like, I have an idea, I'm gonna do it. Hey Janey was more of a, hey, I've had people tell me no, I don't want to do this. Like, we don't want you to do this with us. And then just kind of navigating, I still want to do it. I'm not going to listen to the person who told me no. And then here we are.
You said something when you were talking about rainbow pages that I think probably expands into your other work. But I'm realizing now both of these projects are for sure advocacy. It's not one or the other. But
Mhm.
you mentioned that you were trying to support a community without taking up space that doesn't belong to you, which is
Mhm.
so important. Can you speak to any, I don't know, how you do that or any difficulties you found in that vein?
So, through my time within the WGSS program, intersectionality is really at the core of all of those classes. I was surrounded by folks of all different backgrounds. Same with like the writing center. I can also say, because like going to like a public school, like there were different, like I don't feel like I grew up in like specifically like white spaces, but a lot of people I knew kind of fell into the cis white, Christian ideology of things. But when I started getting involved in like more community-based stuff, like through the writing center or for like even going to college too, like being surrounded by so many different people in a good way, like I love it. It was just a matter of like, oh, this is like the first time I'm in a space where like there's not just cis white people. And that's, like I found that pretty cool. And especially like at a liberal arts college where we have all sorts of international students, you come to the realization of like, yes, you can be like a pioneer for other people and like support other people, but there's times to talk and there's times to be silent. And like a big focus in like my feminist theories course, which was my last WGSS course I took at Augustana, like we had groups focused on all sorts of major social issues. Like a big one was accessibility on campus, like giving voice to like our minority students on campus, protesting for like tenured professor positions. Like it really spanned a lot of different things. So it's like, I just think there's like this meme where it's like, sometimes it's not our turn to talk. That's very true. It's like uplifting others and encouraging others, sharing your story where it's like, because I can speak on like mental health or I can speak on how hard it is to be a woman, but I can't speak on things like chronic illness or other things, you know? Just those are very vague examples, but it's like help the homies, but don't speak for them.
For sure. Thank you. I think that's something
Mhm,
I guess that is always relevant, so I thought having you speak on that would be great. Um
mhm,
Now, to me, it's really clear that these two projects are really, really similar. To me, I feel like I understand um, how how writing interplays with both of them. I think that that's also
mhm.
clear for, say, the layman on how a publication would work into things. But do you feel that that's still true of your work with Hey Janie?
I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways this work intersects. I think the main thing between the two of them that I've found that's kind of differentiated is that Rainbow Pages specifically sticks in the realm of writing. Hey Janie is more about like providing resources, which I do provide resources with Rainbow Pages as well. And by the nature of them both being my projects, I've given like Hey Janie supplies at Rainbow Pages reading. So it's like it's one of those things where like they're like sisters or like you know sibling programs where I can do kind of the same thing at each, except Rainbow Pages is more focused on like sharing stories and like in a creative writing lens and like doing open mics where Hey Janie might be also sharing stories, but it's more focused on harm reduction. I mean, it's hard because I guess you could consider both projects harm reduction, just different ways of seeing harm reduction.
Talk about that. Tell me how Rainbow Pages is harm reduction.
By allowing I feel like with talking with my friends, one, they've like quite a few of them have like, you know, stigmas are lessened, no matter if it's like me giving a talk about mental health with Hey Janie to a sorority group or hosting a poetry open mic, which to a lot of people who aren't like in the poetry world, such as you and I, when they hear poetry reading, a lot of people think it's lame. It's not lame. It's very cool and fun, but college students like they'd take poetry courses just to get like a perspective out of the way, not because they liked it all the time, but like especially working it within my poetry class and inviting people, they end up being like, "Wow, this is really cool what you're doing." So it's like these both of these programs have a lot of eye-opening experiences that I find really awesome, whether it's being like a team member of mine recently telling me that she's like, I feel more comfortable talking about like sexual health and wellness when I thought those things were taboo, or someone going up on stage and like who has never like a lot of people have said that my open mic events are the first event they've ever read at, which is pretty cool. And I kind of get to be like take what I've learned from the writing center because normally I'm the first one to read at any of those events. So like taking what I've learned confidence wise and like performance wise and bringing it to people who may not like it might be their first time reading or it might be their first time learning about Narcan, you know. I feel like it's being an educator, which is really interesting because I used to want to go into education like a long time ago, but I decided against it for a lot of reasons. So it's like education in my own way, which I find really cool.
That's kind of a funny thing that you mentioned because I think I know what you mean. I think everyone knows what you mean when you say education in this context. But yeah, all of it is education. We just have a really narrow understanding of education as a field. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I was thinking Rainbow Pages as harm reduction in its own right. I mean, I know you hand out supplies and stuff at those events, but as it comes out of the Pride and Memory Project, we've got
Hmm.
for the first time sometimes. someone's ability to see themselves in these pages, or the first time that they have been able to see themselves in their work, or fully express. And we know that that can, like, studies have been done, be
Mhm.
literally life-saving. Um, and that matters. Also, just having like you were saying, you didn't say this part, but having this totally judgment-free zone, which is really any space Janie's hosting, is really, really big and important. I don't know if you've experienced this, but I feel like but this happens to me all the time, where folks um seem to expect that there will be some barrier to entry with some of the things I do. Um and then they're obviously delighted that there isn't. But it's scary entering a space, and then
Mhm.
having it be a welcoming space is a big deal.
And I think that's a big push for like having free events, having things that are like low cost, especially since the age of people who attend my events, where we don't have the funds to pay for like a tabling fee at an event. Or so I'm very fortunate that members of the community, like I've hosted at like the Brood Book. I'm hoping to do some stuff with the Atlas Collective very soon. I'm very like happy that I have that support, because if I had all the money in the world, I would be giving back to my community, but I am at that point where I don't even have like an office space for my project, because everything is so pricey. So keeping things low cost or free when I can, and then ideally in the future being able to do more. That's the goal for both of these projects. But keeping it free or low cost is like a big thing for me.
Yeah, no, that's so, so important, especially because both literature and we'll say um harm reduction or prophylactic resources can be so expensive. Like, just a notebook can be $20 or more,
Mhm.
let alone
Yeah.
a book.
Plan being $60.
Yes. Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, I can get it at the store, but maybe not.
Mhm.
It's expensive.
Right.
So to me, I think of all of your work, and this is partially, my own lens through which I navigate the world, but part of it is knowing you in the context that I know you through writing. Um, it seems to me that um, so much of Hey Janie, especially the name, which we did not talk about, I thought about asking about the name and then I didn't, um, comes from story.
Mhm.
Actually, yeah, let's talk about the name. Let's just go all in. Let's talk about the name. Tell me how you named Hey Janie Co. Hey Janie and Co.
Yeah. So it is a play on a couple different things. Hey Jane is a abortion pill provider that does a lot of cool work for reproductive justice. It's a play on my name, obviously, but it's also a play on the Janes, which I watched this documentary at a special screening that the WGSS department did, and essentially people would call Jane, which is like a group of women who were very like interested in helping
Jane
people
Doe.
receive abortion care. Yes, Jane Doe. So they'd ring up an anonymous phone line and be like, "Hey Jane, is this Jane? I need help." And the co kind of came when I started expanding the team, because it was like initially it was just me, and that's fine. But the more I've wanted to do, it's like I can't do all of this by myself, as fun as it has been. So it's like with this upcoming cohort, I have probably close to 20 people, maybe less, like joining the team. Yeah. So quite literally, I'm going to send emails out today. So I'm super excited for it. Like these positions range from anything being like Greek life representatives to distribution, which is helpful for me because I don't have it's like most of these people have vehicles, which is nice. Not that you need it for what I'm doing, because I'm like trying to strengthen Augustana at the moment, but I need people on the ground willing to do the work aside from myself, because one, I'm not even like a college student anymore, which is weird to think about. But if I can get things really strong at Augustana, the hope is I can expand into other colleges such as Blackhawk, um, maybe Ambrose. I don't know. We'll just kind of see, because like in my dream future for this thing is this is something that isn't just like an like local Quad Cities thing, which I mean, if it only ever becomes that, that's me doing my job. But like if you go to like a different state that needs care, they have like a hey Janey, I don't know, like Indiana, I don't know. This is that's like big picture stuff, but I'm trying like when it comes to like projects such as this that I'm so passionate about, I try not to like over plan stuff, which is hard because I'm excited and I have all these ideas swimming in my brain 24/7 because that's how I operate. But it's like taking stuff small and making sure I can make it successful at one place before I like take over the world, so to speak.
So I I brought back the name. I love the idea of
Hmm.
Janie taking over the world. Because the name itself is a story. Anytime we call back to or reference the past or the bigger picture or the leaders or whatever, there's an inherent story to
Hmm.
that. And I know I got involved with reproductive activism through storytelling. So that's also just a lens through which I understand activism and understand the world. Um, but I I have never like had a life uh in addition to like outside of the writing and the story. So I would like to know now, we're gonna segue back into into writing. Um, how each of these projects, right? I know that Rainbow Pages is more we'll say episodic. It comes at the appropriate times. It's open to, as I understand it, you're kind of always open to submissions. But events and publication happen
Hmm.
periodically, where Hey Janie is an on-demand thing. Um, how
Hmm.
how do you see these two projects connecting with your daily life? Or is it like
As
this is
like
my
especially
go ahead.
oh, you can finish.
I was gonna say, or is it like this is off to the side? This is a project I do in project time and real life is right now.
Okay. I mean, I think for me right now, being that it's the summer after college graduation and like having all of this time to pour into it has been really great. Um, Ideally, like in the nonprofit sphere is where I want to, eventually work and do things with. So it has like it's a weird intersection because it's kind of like, yes, these things started out as like, oh, I'm a full-time student, but these are things that I'm doing. But I kind of would like it to shift into this is what I'm doing almost like as full-time as I can make it because also things cost money and I have to like accept that. Unfortunately, that I'm probably not at least at this point in time, able to run it full time. But that's the goal. I have a lot of passions, but like with how much I've managed to accomplish in just the span of 2 years through advocacy work, like even getting an award for my advocacy work this past April, like that to me is like that's something that I don't want to throw away and like, stop doing. It's one of those things where it's like ideally to be a creative in a world that doesn't always create or like recognize creatives, whether that's like art. Like I have friends that do art markets and like that is their whole life and it's wonderful and I love them for that. But it's like it's not an easy thing to make that choice to be a creative or even like working in careers where you're helping people because a lot of times people don't want to help people and that's really sad, but that's a reality. So it's just a matter of like, I don't know, so much of this stuff blurs into like my this is real life, this is my fun. So like for me they kind of mesh together and like in a dream world I should be able to do that. Is it the easiest path to take? I know that it's not. And that's why like especially with writing, I know that like people don't respect poets all the time or respect prose writers, which again, it's very very hard pill to swallow. but it's like if I can do multiple things in the creative lens, nonprofit lens, I feel like that's happiness to me. And then like, because like I want to be doing something I love. I don't want to be tied down. Like for me, I'm very much the type of person who has never pictured themselves in a 9 to 5 role. Even when I was a kid, I'm like, being an office worker sounds so lame. So that's kind of like, especially in this post-grad transition, I'm still kind of figuring out how I can do it all, but also not explode in the process.
It's so funny. I used to like, and even sometimes now, even when I've had office
Mhm.
jobs and 9 to 5s, I feel like I'm playing dress up. Like I used to, yeah, it feels like playing dress up to me, and I love it, actually.
Mhm.
Probably in limited terms. Um, to do. Um, so then, you answered, the same way I would, which is that this is kind of just a part of who I am, and it doesn't really
Mhm.
separate out neatly. Um, but I would love to
Yep.
know in your daily life, I know you're navigating sort of a new period of time in your life, but how does activism come into play in your daily life?
Um, Aside from like working on, like I work on these projects probably like if I'm not like working on a social media post, I'm like like I'm scheduling stuff out. I'm doing like Instagram post series. Like I'm planning a special 100th post giveaway with the Atlas Collective, or like writing like sharing people's stories for disability awareness. So it's like it's constantly through my head. I also have a group chat with advocates in the community that most of them are college students on Signal, and we do a lot of cool stuff and like organizing, which I won't go into too much detail because it's hush hush kind of a thing. But I'm constantly talking to people and uplifting people's projects and uplifting people's ideas, especially since I've noticed, especially in my Fem Theories class, a lot of these projects that the students have started, they're still going and they're going to like grow bigger. Like the group that I was in focused on reproductive access, A for RJ, Augustana for reproductive justice, and they're working to continue the work that was already started through our day of reproductive justice, which was super cool. So it's like I'm keeping in contact with these people because they're cool young people and they're my friends. And it's like it's like a network of connections that I have. And like none of what I do would be possible without those connections because especially at Augustana too, because I'm no longer a student, but that doesn't mean that I need to like, especially since I'm still local, I'm not gonna like cut off those connections. I'm gonna strengthen those connections because that's like not only does it help me, it helps them in their work. And like with the writing center as well, it's like I may not talk to everybody all of the time, but it's like having community and having these connections are so important. And like you don't have to talk to everybody every day, but like it's they're still a part of your life if you want them to be.
Now then, same question. I love that, by the way. Now then, same question about writing. How does writing come into play in your daily life?
Writing is a little bit harder actually, which is weird because it used to be that writing was something that almost came supernatural to me, especially since like especially my first couple like years of YW. Like I think the pandemic played into that because that's all I had time for was like creative writing and like I worked on like I have a YouTube channel. It's pretty dead, but at the time that was like something I really threw myself into. And I still upload like readings I've done on there. I have a playlist and it's fun. But it's like having like the time, like having time made it easier, but also like going through some like personal stuff because writing for me is also like an emotional outlet as it is probably a lot of writers. And like going through loss and going through like difficulties mentally. There was like a good 6 to 8 months where I just didn't want to write at all because it felt weird. Um, those times still happen, but I don't find it happening as often. It's like going through seasons of, like, because I don't, like, you guys have talked to us about how writer's block does not exist, which is a hard concept for a lot of young writers to grasp. And I wouldn't say that I'd consider it writer's block, but it's like I know that like during the summer, my writing always comes back as long as I've been working on staff or as an intern, just because when you're surrounded by people who are like you guys give us so many prompts, like hundreds of prompts. It's kind of hard to like I can't like I don't understand like sitting in a room full of like 20 other people and being like I don't have anything, like especially like we're there for 3 days a week. And then it's like my big problem through college was I was writing research papers about really depressing topics about the world. Important, yes, but it was like about like I did a paper on incarceration rates. And I'm like, this is not bringing me joy, and not that writing always brings joy, but it was like very hard, like it was a hard pivot, especially this summer, to like go from writing about societal issues in like an academic way to writing about societal issues in poetry prose land with a bunch of other people in the summer. So, and I feel like too, as I'm like transitioning into whatever this next chapter looks like for me, there will be times that writing is hard. Or like there'll be days where I'll jot something down in my notes app and it'll be great. It just really, I don't know, it's like it's a hard, because I would say that it's writing like anything else in my life is always there, but sometimes it's a little nicer to me. And I'm like, oh, I want to write a book about this, or I want to write about this really cool trip I just went on. But a lot of times it's just like staring at the notebook or staring at the screen and being like, man, whatever I'm thinking about is just not wording how I want it to word.
I am incapable of speaking. The words just don't do the talking so good. And it's very
Mhm.
frustrating for me. What I love is that in both of your answers for how these things come into play in your daily life, they seemed inextricable from one another. And I didn't even ask that. I didn't ask how they relate to each other. I didn't ask um that. Um, yeah, but
Mhm.
it does and of course we don't have to write on social justice themes, but like we exist in a world and those things
Yeah.
have to come out however we feel if we start to express. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I guess do you feel like oh, I'm running out of time with you. I'm sorry. I was um it does sound like though that you did find um
Mhm.
an expansion from and with writing in your other studies. Probably found yourself some rabbit holes you didn't expect to climb into, which is really,
Mhm.
really cool.
It's like writing is at the core of everything. And it just kind of opened up a lot of different ways. And now, even though writing isn't my main focus, it's still there. And it's wonderful.
Is there is there any advice you would give to someone like you who's looking to maybe feel a little more integrated in one circle or the other?
I was just talking to a friend about this. It's like you've got to put yourself out there, even if it's hard. Like, even if it's doing stuff by yourself. And if you see a need that is not being met and it bothers you, be that be that person to address it if you're like able to. Because I get social anxiety sucks. And like even though like towards the end of college I gained a lot of good friends and good people, that was hard. Like it took me like till the end of my college experience to actually say, hey, I have good friends, because people are rude and people don't always get those who are not neurotypical. And that was a big struggle, but it's like you still should soak up that time. Like if you have the opportunities to, like whether it's like higher education or just in general, and you want to do it, you do it. You don't, like if you're able to do it, or even if you're not and you figure out later how to make it work, you do it. That's really, because it's like I feel like I would regret a lot more if I just sat in my dorm alone and didn't do the thing. Or even like I was a part of like Greek life as well, and that was an experience, but I still don't regret it. You know, like there's things to learn from anything, even if it sucks.
Yeah. Something I hear, I guess not that often anymore because I don't do a lot of events these days, but people often have told me, like, yeah, but that's easy for you, something along those lines. And I'm like, oh no, I just do it scared. So I think that's one, really good advice,
Nope, it's not always easy.
but also advice I wouldn't have thought to give. So thank you for that. Um, Anything else you want to add?
Um, Not that I can think of other than you can find HJ or Hey Janie and Co. and Rainbow Pages on Instagram, HJC underscore Augie, or at, yeah, at HJC underscore AUGIE, and then Rainbow Pages. You can chat with me on social media too, but I think my projects are a bit more fun.
I'll make sure that I get your tags in the description of the video. And yeah, okay. Thank you so much for hanging out, Janie. I'm going to transition into what's up at the Midwest Writing Center. I do want to say I find your um first your insights invaluable, but also like you're such an asset at the writing center all the time. So double thanks to you for existing. Thanks for being here. And you can hang out while I close up, or you don't have to. So moving into what's up at the Midwest Writing Center. This Thursday, July 14th, is the 20th anniversary of the Atlas. The Atlas is the Young Emerging Writers um, internship publication. Every year for the last 20 years, we have put together a full-length literary magazine of the writers of the the writers who are participants in our internship program. It's a paid internship. It's really beautiful, and the publication is gorgeous and professionally done, and will be available this this Thursday at the release party, which will be at Roz Talks. The event starts at 5 p.m. We'll have vendors set up outside at 5:30. Our interns will take the stage, and then that's yeah, I already said that's outdoors. And then at 8 o'clock, we're gonna move indoors for an alum and staff reading, and then follow that'll be followed by a DJ set by David Otten. It'll be great. Again, that's this Thursday at Roz Talks. That's 2108 Third Avenue in Rock Island, totally free, open to the public. We really, really want our friends there for this celebration. 20 years is a big deal. And that's really exciting. Then our friends at Rat Trap are having their release party on Friday, August 15th at the Atlas Collective. That's on 5th and 18th in Moline, in downtown Moline. Um, that magazine will be for sale. There will be a reading that night too. Also, our friend Wolf, who's a professor at Augustana College, has a book release at the actually, I don't know. We're just going to congratulate Wolf. I don't know if these events are public for Wolf. So Wolf's book is coming out on the 15th as well. On Saturday, as with the first and third Saturday of every month, we have Writers Studio, which is the Quad City's oldest and longest running workshop critique group. It's free to join, open to anyone who's interested in giving and receiving feedback on their writing. There are two groups. They happen simultaneously from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. One meets in person at the Writing Center, which is the ground floor of the Rock Island Public Library downtown branch, and one meets online via Zoom. You can get the link to that on our website, in our link tree, by emailing us, whatever your favorite way to get links is. Um, and then our next event isn't happening until August. I keep saying April in my head. August 30th, the week of August 25th is the Great River Writers Retreat. So our retreat winner will do a reading at the Atlas Collective on August 30th at 4 p.m. Her name is Stella Joyce Crawl. She's working on a novel in progress while she's here. She'll give a reading from that project and answer questions about, her life as a writer, her experience as a resident. And getting into September, we do have a lot going on. We're going to be traveling a lot, though, for Printers Row. We've got more events with the Davenport Parks. Um, we're going to be at the QCAD 35th anniversary celebration. There's a lot coming up in the fall that I'm not ready to announce yet. But please stay tuned. And for today's prompt, if you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes to spend on it, please set your timer. Give yourself just a little bit of time and space to write, and then whatever comes out is just fine. It can be a journal, a poem, um, fiction, nonfiction, it doesn't matter. So set that 5 minute timer, and today's prompt is I want to help. Thank you everyone for hanging out today, especially thank you to Janey, and as always, please write more light into your life.